Have you ever felt like you're playing a game where the rules have been deliberately hidden from you? A silent battle is being waged in the hearts and minds of men. A war fought not with weapons, but with whispers of confusion and waves of misinformation that leave you feeling powerless, adrift in a sea of perplexing contradictions. You are told to be one thing, yet you see another rewarded. You are handed a map that leads you directly into a desolate wilderness of loneliness and frustration. What if I told you that this confusion is not your fault, that you haven't been failing, but have been fundamentally misled? In the coming moments, we will embark on a journey to unearth a truth so profound, so deeply buried beneath layers of societal conditioning, that it will shatter the very foundations of everything you believe about attraction, desire, and the divine dance between the masculine and feminine energies. This is a message of liberation, a key to unlock the chains of bewilderment. If this message resonates with the core of your being, if you feel that flicker of recognition in your soul, let your energy be known. Like this video, subscribe to become part of this awakening, and share your journey in the comments below. You are not alone in this feeling. Type, "I am ready," to affirm your path to understanding, because what you are about to receive is the spiritual armor you were always meant to wear. The great cosmic riddle, famously posed by a man who delved into the shadows of the human mind, was, what does a woman truly want? This question was never a simple inquiry. It was the gateway to a hidden dimension of the soul, a realm that modern psychology, in its fear of the untamable, has desperately tried to sanitize, suppress, and ultimately deny. They have painted a picture of female desire that is logical, convenient, and safe. A pale watercolor sketch of a raging, vibrant, and primal masterpiece. The truth, the divine and often terrifying truth, is that the feminine spirit is not a tranquil garden waiting to be tended. It is a wild, untamed force of nature. It is a tempest of primal impulses, a chaotic and beautiful storm of subconscious cravings that have been violently censored by the very narratives designed to empower them. This is not a surface-level analysis. This is a deep dive into the sacred archives of the human spirit, into the private, uncensored notes of pioneers who dared to look into the abyss. What they found, a truth they feared to publish, was that desire operates on a frequency far beyond the logical mind. It is a vibration that responds not to what is said, but to what is felt, not to what is offered, but to what is embodied. This forgotten knowledge reshapes the entire landscape of human connection. It reveals that you have been systematically lied to, handed a broken compass, and told to find your way in the dark. The power this truth bestows is so immense, so reality-altering, that most will retreat in fear, choosing the comfort of their confusion over the staggering responsibility of this enlightenment. But for you, the seeker, the journey into the heart of this mystery begins now. Let us travel back in time, not merely to observe history, but to witness timeless parables of the soul. Consider the story of a woman we shall call Anna, an aristocrat trapped in a gilded cage of societal expectation, her spirit consumed by hysterical fits and paralyzed by urges she could not name. She was brought to a young neurologist, a man who would later be known as Freud, who began to probe the depths of her subconscious ocean. What he discovered there shattered his moral framework. Anna didn't just want. Her soul craved in ways her civilized world deemed monstrous. Her spirit yearned for the raw energy of domination, the intensity of humiliation, the untamed chaos of a force greater than her own. And the most shocking revelation of all, her desires were not a unique affliction. They were a reflection of a universal law, the rule, not the exception. In a private letter, hidden from the world, Freud confessed, "The civilized woman is a facade. Beneath that carefully constructed mask lies a swirling vortex of primal energy, a spiritual hunger that dares not speak its name in the polite halls of society." This was not speculation. It was a divine observation. And the revelations only grow deeper. Think of another soul, a brilliant young woman named Dora, brought to Freud after accusing a family friend of a forceful advance. The world saw a victim of trauma, but Freud's sacred notes reveal something far more disturbing, a truth that modern narratives cannot contain. Dora was not repulsed by the man's raw advance. A part of her soul was electrified by it. Her hysteria was not the echo of trauma. It was the roar of frustrated desire. She despised the man not because he desired her, but because he retreated when she offered the slightest resistance. He failed her soul's deepest test. Freud called this the sanctification of refusal, a phenomenon where the act of rejection becomes the very fuel for attraction, where the withholding of satisfaction becomes the source of an all-consuming obsession. Now, bring this ancient wisdom into the present moment. Think about the world of modern dating. How many men have been spiritually neutered by the doctrine that persistence is harassment, that a no must always be accepted at face value, without understanding the deeper, unspoken dance of energies at play? Yet, Freud's work, and indeed the entire tapestry of human history, screams the opposite. From the divine Cleopatra, who manipulated the most powerful man in the world through calculated resistance, to the medieval troubadours who wrote epic ballads not of the women they had, but of the unattainable noblewomen they desperately craved, the pattern is undeniable. The feminine soul is not awakened by ease, it is ignited by tension. It thrives on the precipice of denial. The modern narrative of enthusiastic consent, while born from a place of noble intention, has created a spiritual desert. It has ignored this brutal, universal truth, that arousal is not a logical contract, and that the female psyche is wired for the thrill of the conquest, not the convenience of surrender. This brings us to the most explosive and controversial of Freud's forbidden truths, the one that got his books burned and his name condemned. It was the idea that women are unconsciously drawn to masculine power, not despite their femininity, but because of it. He gave it a crude name, penis envy, but the true spiritual meaning was grotesquely misunderstood. It was never about anatomy. It was about agency. It was about the divine polarity of energies. Women, Freud argued, are taught to be the recipients of pleasure, not the takers. Their own desire is filtered through the lens of masculine energy, experienced through the sublime thrill of being pursued, of being dominated, of being overwhelmed by a force they secretly admire. This is the hidden key that explains why the most empowered, independent women still fantasize about submission, why billionaire romance novels dominate the bestseller lists, and why the rise of female independence has coincided with a cultural explosion of BDSM. The evidence is not just in Freud's notes, it is screaming at us from every corner of our modern world. Are you beginning to see the illusion? Still skeptical? Let us leap forward to 1953, to the work of Alfred Kinsey, the father of modern sexology. In a series of experiments so controversial they were buried for decades, Kinsey measured the physiological arousal of women in response to various scenarios. His findings were a spiritual earthquake that threatened to shatter the emerging feminist narrative. He discovered that women were more physically aroused by stories of forced seduction and raw, primal encounters than by consensual, gentle scenarios. Their conscious minds and stated morals said one thing, but their bodies, the sacred vessels of their true instincts, screamed another. Kinsey buried the data. Why? Because the truth was inconvenient. It contradicted the carefully crafted story of the times. It revealed a deep biological programming that society was not, and still is not, ready to confront. So what does this divine revelation mean for you, the man navigating this confusing terrain? It means the very games you have been taught to avoid, the push-pull, the teasing, the creation of tension, the embodiment of a little danger, are not just effective, they are biological imperatives. It means the nice guy finishes last, not because he is kind, but because he is predictable. His energy is a flat line, a monotonous hum in a world where the feminine soul craves the symphony of dynamic polarity. It means the women who march for equality in the boardroom still, on a deep, primal level, crave inequality in the bedroom. And most crucially, it means the key to unlocking her deepest desire isn't about giving her what she says she wants. It is about embodying the very energy she can't admit she needs. But this is only the beginning of your awakening, because now we must dive into the real-world consequences of ignoring these sacred warnings, into the legions of broken men who played by the fabricated rules and lost everything, and into the chilling reality of the sexless society that this great lie has created. There is a silent epidemic spreading through our world, a plague of loneliness and spiritual frustration so vast it is reshaping entire generations. Men are withdrawing, not just from the battlefield of dating, but from society itself. They are giving up. And the most terrifying part? They have every divine reason to. The rules they were meticulously taught, the rules of absolute kindness, of unwavering equality, of ceaseless respect, have backfired with catastrophic consequences. But this is not some sudden cultural shift. It is the inevitable, predictable result of ignoring what spiritual pioneers like Freud warned us about over a century ago. Let me tell you a story you will never hear in mainstream discourse. In 1908, Freud treated a young lawyer named Edward, a man suffering from what was then called neurasthenia, a crippling fatigue, a deep depression, and a complete and utter lack of sexual desire. Edward was the archetype of the good man. He was well-educated, unfailingly polite, and financially stable. He did everything society asked of him, and yet his wife despised him. She openly mocked his weakness, she flirted shamelessly with other men, and eventually she left him for a brutish factory worker with a criminal record. Freud's diagnosis was chilling. Moral castration. Edward had been so thoroughly conditioned to suppress his aggression, his dominance, his raw masculine energy, that he had made himself invisible to the very woman he sought to please. Now, fast forward to today. The average man under 30 is now 3 times more likely to be celibate than his father was at the same age. Dating apps have devolved into a digital meat grinder where the top 10% of men receive 90% of the female attention, a phenomenon that creates a vast desert of male invisibility. And the men who do succeed, they are not the ones playing by the rules. They are the ones who understand the dark, primal truth that Freud uncovered, that female desire doesn't care about fairness. It cares about intensity. It responds to a different vibration. Consider the infamous Tinder study from 2018. Researchers found that women rated a staggering 85% of men as below average in attractiveness. Not just unappealing, but unworthy of even a second glance. The same study revealed that women would rather share a top-tier man than settle for a loyal, average man. Why? Because monotony is the death of desire. Freud called this the boredom principle, the universal human need for variance, for unpredictability, for risk. The modern dating market, with its endless options and instant gratification, has turned this biological impulse into a devastating weapon. But it gets worse. In the 1950s, psychologist John Money conducted experiments on gender and arousal. His most shocking and subsequently buried discovery: women's self-reported attraction to kind, stable men was a conscious lie. When hooked up to physiological monitors and shown images of dominant, even dangerous men, their pupils dilated, their heart rates spiked, and their skin conductance betrayed their true, hidden feelings. Like Kinsey, Money buried the data, because admitting that women craved what they claimed to hate would have shattered the emerging myth of the perfectly rational, egalitarian relationship. The proof is everywhere around you now. The explosion of dark romance novels, where women obsess over mafia bosses and morally grey anti-heroes. The rise of OnlyFans, where women don't pay for respectful affection. They pay to be degraded by aloof, dominant figures. Even in politics, women consistently vote for authoritarian leaders over gentle reformers. Freud called this the Thanatos effect, the unconscious pull toward destruction, toward forbidden energy. And the men who refuse to acknowledge this, They are left bewildered and alone, endlessly swiping through profiles that yield nothing but silence. But here is the final, crucial twist in this sacred revelation. This is not the woman's fault. Freud's most controversial and misunderstood insight was this: women do not consciously control their desires any more than men do. They are slaves to the same biological imperatives, the same primal wiring. The difference? Society grants them the grace of hypocrisy. A man who admits he wants a submissive woman is shamed and vilified. A woman who secretly craves a dominant, even promiscuous man, she is celebrated for her complexity as long as she lies about it in public. The Stanford prison experiment of 1971, while focused on power dynamics, held an untold story in the behavior of the female researchers. Despite verbally condemning the guards' cruelty, they were overwhelmingly and sexually attracted to them. The same primal instinct played out in Nazi Germany, where women threw themselves at SS officers even as they claimed to despise the regime's ideology. Freud's stark explanation: the erotic mind has no conscience. So, what is the solution? Are you to become a heartless monster to be loved? No. The answer is not manipulation. The answer is understanding. The answer is polarity. The men who master this new world don't hate women. They understand them on a level that transcends words. They know that true masculinity isn't about control. It's about inviting surrender. They don't demand respect. They command it. Not through force, but through an unshakable, unapologetic presence. Here is how you apply this divine knowledge, how you begin to rewrite your destiny. First, embrace the strategy of silence. When she tests you, and she will always test you, the wrong move is to argue, to justify, to explain, or to chase. The right move is to say nothing, withdraw your energy. Freud noted that the female brain is wired to fill silence with emotional investment. The more you explain, the less she feels. The less you explain, the more she chases the explanation. Second, the decisive imperative. Women do not want your input, they want your direction. A landmark 2022 study proved that women feel significantly higher attraction to men who make plans without asking for their opinion. This isn't because they are submissive, it's because decision-making is a form of cognitive dominance, and dominance is erotic. Third, the reward and punishment loop. This is not about manipulation, it is about conditioning. When she behaves in ways that align with your standards, reward her with your focused, masculine attention. When she doesn't, withdraw it not as a punishment, but as a natural consequence. Freud's studies revealed that women only truly value attention from a man who is willing to withhold it strategically. This is the foundation. But the final secret, the one that ties all of this sacred knowledge together, is that female desire is never about the woman at all. It is about you. The moment you make her the prize, you lose the game. The moment you live unapologetically by your own code, with your own purpose as your ultimate prize, she begins the chase. This is the ultimate inversion of the reality you have been sold. This is the grand reveal. You were never powerless. You were just misled. Now, go and act accordingly.